Here we are. Chocolate Podcast.
Here we are.
We are in Club Kitchen. It is so good.
It is good.
I am thoroughly excited tonight. Back to the videoing. We are recording. Just checking.
Yeah,
Checking it.
we're dialed in.
We are Chocolate Thunder coming at you.
Oh, geez.
Someone called, side note, someone thought, oh, I've heard you guys podcast. It's Chocolate Thunder, right?
Oh, geez. No.
I'm like, no, it's actually white chocolate. I mean, I guess the white part could be the
You're like,
thunder.
I'll be Thunder.
Like, yes, I'm the thunder. But anyways, welcome to the White Chocolate Podcast in the studio of Club Kitchen. I let Kai introduce our special first-time video guest.
Man, I'm so excited. So
I know, it's the first time.
it is the first time.
Tonight, yeah.
Video guest.
Emily, the main, y'all. I don't even know how long I've known you.
I know you thought I was in your wedding, or not in your wedding.
I thought you went to my wedding.
But you thought I was there, but I didn't meet you until
Was it youth?
Live Chapel. No, you started coming.
Yeah,
You
but
guys
like,
weren't in the youth before
Correct.
I just don't remember, like,
the meeting.
yeah.
I do.
Oh.
Because I came up to you. Well, Joel and I went to college together.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I came up to you at church
Did you?
and I said, I forget what I said. I have no idea what I said. I just, I actually, sought you out for something. You're like,
That's-
no, one and only. I've gone to Light Chapel for so long and I've never done that again. But I was like, I forget what I said, honestly. I just remember saying we should get together sometime, and we did.
Yeah.
We got
Good.
together at SIP, I think,
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I was a young lad. Wow.
before the twins, all of it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. But what I would say about Emily Main.
Yes. Introduce.
Yeah. So I would say how I'd introduce Emily Main is someone that
I'm not
Can-
gonna do this. I have a hard time
No,
receiving
I'm
this
saying
stuff.
no. Listen.
Okay.
Someone that I admire how God uses your depth to reach your friends and the
Yeah.
people around you. But then also you can just have a good time with. It's hard to find. And I
Mhm.
treasure that so
Thank
much about you.
Thank you for saying that.
I love it.
And
That's
Love
Emily
you.
May.
that's Emily.
That's how
Ooh,
she-
man,
That's how she resonates.
that's
with my
heavy
heart.
right there. That is like, I would say Emily Main is someone that knows how to have good relationships, friendships, works really hard,
Very hard.
and cares hard for people. And
Mm.
that's something I really admire about you, Emily. So welcome
Welcome.
to the pod.
Well, geez. Thank you.
So as we say, click and subscribe. So it's so weird saying that.
Right there.
Give us a rating. I don't know.
Just text me.
Regardless. Welcome.
Just
I probably know you.
You'll probably do know you. Anyone that's this side probably have your
yeah.
phone number.
Welcome to
Except for the people that are listening outside the country. I just always like
Do
to
we
get.
have the?
Yeah,
Do you
we don't
have
know
some
them.
people do. I don't know
Good
how
job,
that
you guys.
happens.
It's
That's
a beautiful thing.
amazing. I
Yeah,
love
Well,
that.
it's different.
Listen.
They're probably like, what is white chocolate? Do you
No.
know they have white
They-
chocolate in other countries?
They
Are you
must.
are you a fan of chocolate in general? or
I
is it-
like milk chocolate.
You like
So is
milk
that kind? I mean,
Yeah,
it had,
yeah.
milk is white. So
You know, I hope they don't zoom in
It
the picture I
is.
just gave you.
It naturally is white. Yes. That's what I'm talking about.
but yes,
You're-
I do
you're
like
right.
milk chocolate.
You do? Do you like white chocolate?
Not so much.
It's gross.
yeah, I don't like it.
That's not bad. It's not bad. Give-
We have a review. Give a review. We
Right.
just went to a nice restaurant in town
Yes.
and we had some white chocolate and it was garbage. It was trash,
It
garbage.
wasn't like
trash
horrible.
bags.
It's just
It's not good.
it was just too much going on.
No,
It
it's
just
bad.
took out the
Bad,
whole
bad,
idea
bad.
of
Now this is going
chocolate.
on.
Just they put too much white in that.
What is white?
What is the white?
The ingredient of white is that?
white, what is the white part of white chocolate?
We have no idea. We ate it and it was trash.
We had to do some research on
Okay.
Stay tuned
So
for that
one-
next
One
episode.
part white.
Um, Kai always starts out with this wonderful question. Doing ice cream. What are kind of ice cream? What's your go-to ice cream?
Ooh.
You always seem to ask that
Honestly,
question for
chocolate chip ice cream. Just
Really?
regular, yeah.
what kind of brand we talking about?
I have no idea.
Oh, you don't discriminate.
I don't. I really don't eat enough ice cream, to be honest with you.
What's your favorite type of cookie? Then?
I do like rainbow sherbet, though. What's that?
Ooh.
Bad. Love sherbet.
Yeah, rainbow sherbet.
Rainbow sherbet.
Sherbet. Oh my.
Sherbet.
It's like
Sherbet?
Sherbet?
sorbet.
Sherbet? No, that's not it. Sorbet is like a thing.
I know. I was just
You ever
getting-
had gelato?
I think so.
Yeah.
Should I know? What?
Gelato?
Gelato? You don't know
Gelato.
It's an Italian.
It's a fan. My parents just went
Pretty
to
sure it's
Italy.
Italian
My parents
ice cream.
just went to Italy and they had a bunch of gelato like every single day. So
Spell gelato.
I can't spell.
It's a
Okay.
G. I do know
It's
that.
supposed to be the G.
G-E-L.
fancy.
No, I'm like,
I just figured I had to ask you that
No,
question.
No, wait.
know.
What's your favorite type of
somebody find out
cookie.
if that was right. My favorite cookie?
Yeah,
Cookie.
Chocolate chip.
chocolate chip.
Yeah,
Nice.
you make some great chocolate chip. When I first started coming over here, like just to hang,
Brick and bakes.
you would
Yeah, busted out those
man,
break and
just
bakes,
like
baby.
a little bit
Man.
of crisp on the outside and just gooey on the inside. So
Oh
good.
man. Now you make everything from scratch. It's pretty
I've been
nice.
trying.
It's been good. Yeah.
So how are you, Emily, doing today? You
I'm good.
excited to be
I'm
part of this?
Feeling good.
you
Yeah,
had
I
some
don't really
Olive
have
Garden
any
today.
expectation. I did have some Olive Garden today.
What's your go-to there?
I do enjoy their spaghetti.
Olive Garden.
Okay,
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah,
classic.
just the
Yeah.
classic spaghetti meatballs, angel hair spaghetti.
That's
That's what I
good.
got. It was
That's
good.
rich right there. All right.
That's what you get.
What did I get?
That's what you get.
At
Olive Garden.
Olive Garden? Yeah. Spaghetti. It's good.
Spaghetti meatballs.
There's nothing wrong with that. Gets
I'm a
you started.
fettuccine Alfredo type of gal.
Oh.
Yeah, I do like the Alfredo as well.
Like, but soup, bomb. Soup and salad, bomb.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Can't
sorry.
go wrong with those
So-
breadsticks either.
Emily the Maine. So I'm excited just to really know and hear your story a little bit. Part of the idea, okay, it's springtime, so we're going to talk about a lot about earth and growth, and I'm excited about the season this spring because there's something about that rich green scene. So like that's almost my favorite season almost because it's like things are sprouting
Nature's
up.
waking up. Yeah.
Nature's, ooh, there you go. See,
Mhm.
and so I wanted to have you be part of our podcast and kind of talk about that, encourage people, kind of share your story. Give us a little about the background of like your heart and growing, and let your mind know like Emily is someone that works at the Metro Parks here.
Don't
and-
take away her story.
I know.
Oh.
Just give me a little. But yeah, Emily just has a lot of cool things about her, and it just comes out in a lot of ways, even some poetry too. But anyways, tell us a little bit about yourself and where have you been?
Goodness, that's like a loaded question when you're aging.
Aw.
Aging? What?
I know it sounds so bad, but like the older you get, you don't know how to answer that
That's
question,
okay.
right? Like when we're in college, it's like, give us your testimony, and you only had to like recap like 18 years.
Yeah.
It's like that
Hit the
felt
highlights.
easy.
Yeah.
And then here we are, like 2 times farther along, and it's like, holy smokes, I got to figure out how to encompass life. But I don't know. I guess like in the vein of creation and in the vein of nature, I've just always loved the outdoors. So I grew up, I have two sisters. I'm the middle child, and they were both very academic. I was always outside playing, and they played a lot inside, so I was always the one. My little sister did join me on some of these occasions, but like I was the one flipping over rocks and picking up sticks and collecting dandelion heads and just finding it, climbing the trees.
Yeah.
Not that some of my sisters didn't join me in that every once in a while, but that was kind of just where I thrived. Like I just wanted to be outside as much as possible. And so had I known, I guess, that young that I could pursue any type of like life where that was my life, I probably would have taken some different paths growing up, but I didn't. I just kind of leaned into the creative side of things. I like to, I don't know, just draw. I drew a lot. I liked seeing people's reactions when I did create something. And so I kind of pursued the art avenue in college, and then that went nowhere. Starving artist is a thing. Didn't even really try, to be honest. It's like, really, am I going to put a ton of, like, it just didn't feel like I was helping anybody. It didn't feel like I was doing anything than just creating, just for the sake of people noticing. And
When did you realize that was like I'm not sure. Like, when did that dawn on you? Like mid-college or?
That it was probably wasn't likely I was going to make a living off of this. Pretty much, I would say probably 2 years into
2 years into
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I knew that I could get the degree, and so I did. And my mom worked at the university at the time, so it was free tuition. And again, I didn't take it very seriously. So I had multiple jobs throughout college, and then even a couple in high school, just in the green industry. Green industry being like nurseries for plants, and I learned a lot, I guess, in those times when I was there. And when I graduated, I was actually working in the garden center at Menards.
Okay.
And I started to realize, like, being there, how much I had actually learned at the two nurseries that I worked at prior to that. One being a local one at Haynes Garden Center. I worked there in high school, and I worked at Nature's Corner nearby too. And but being at Menards, I realized I actually learned a lot in my time with these nurseries, and like I was able to give a lot of advice to homeowners that were coming in and shopping. And I liked what I knew, and I was like, how do I do a little bit more with this? And so I was just researching different schools programs that I could kind of figure out how to use the creation side of things and the nature side of things that I loved, and I landed in landscaping. And so I don't regret that. I do enjoy it. Like I enjoy that, but I do like my bread and butter is more than just learning about the nature and figuring out how things were created and why things grow the way they do. And then a big thing as far as like my relationship with the Lord, he really uses creation to kind of speak to me about his qualities. You know, one of my favorite verses is Romans 1:20, where he just his invisible qualities, he makes them known through the created things. And I know I'm not quoting that verbatim, but we could find it. And it's just one of my, that's how I see him. I see his power. I see his just eternal being in these things. Like you can dig deep into the details of creation and still find him there.
So like along the journey, where do you feel like you met the Lord?
Yeah, so that was actually progressive. I wouldn't. There was a moment where I knew God was real, and that was just after high school, and it was through creation. I'm probably not in chronological order here, but kind of giving you a broad stroke.
Okay.
But yeah, in 2005, I had graduated from high school, and I was at a Young Life camp, actually.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
You didn't know
Young
this?
Life?
Oh, let's go. Come on now.
You're a Young Life leader camp or
No leader. I was a Young Life kid. Yeah. So I joined my junior year, and then it was my senior year that I ended up going to the camp right after graduation.
Which location?
Saranac Lake, New York.
Way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it was there.
Beautiful, huh?
It was gorgeous. Yeah.
Gorgeous.
But what happened was I was starting to notice. So I was raised in the church, very religious based. But what had happened was I was noticing at this Young Life camp, and even in the Young Life vein, like people were just like, and then I was saved, and like they were using language that I wasn't acquainted with. You know, like being raised in like the Methodist church and the Presbyterian church, you don't hear that. Like it's not. Like winning people to Christ wasn't like a thing, you know, it was a way of life. And so I remember hearing a lot of people share their testimonies, and I'm like, I don't have that moment, you know, like do I believe in God? Like there was just this big question mark, and I was struggling with that for a couple of years. I even had other struggles that we'll probably go into today, but I remember sitting on a rock in Saranac Lake, and I'm like, Lord, or I said, okay, I need to know. Like, I just make it clear, you know? And the simplest thing happened. Just a bird flew into the tree next to me. That's it. That's all that happened. And I remember seeing it do that. And I'm like, well, that works pretty perfectly. You know, like I just saw it. It like use things to make its nest. And I'm like, how did it know to do that? You know, like just the simplicity of provision, the simplicity of things working the way they should, you know? But you wouldn't have come up with that, you know, like I'm like, I just like this works too perfectly. Like I saw the designer, and it just made it clear that that God existed. Now I won't say that turned into a relationship right away, but it definitely turned into like, okay, I trust you. And I knew that the God of the Bible is the only God that exists that takes credit for it, that takes credit for creation. And so, and then, yeah, I just believed in that fact. And so the Bible's just been my source of truth, but it also has a ton of depth. And Romans 20, like I just have a lot of verses that really speak to me through creation. I mean, you read all the parables even.
Mhm.
It's just what sticks the best. Like when I look out, and I think everybody can relate to that, He uses the things that we're the most acquainted with. Everybody has an encounter with a tree, There's nobody that doesn't. Everybody has an encounter with the sun and rain and the clouds, and these are all things that we all see every day, and he uses them, and he's saying a lot through them, and I think that's where I just never run out of curiosity, I guess.
Come on.
Wow. I love that. I think, I think there's probably a lot of places on this earth that people have been and they just know like, whoa,
Mhm.
there has to be a creator. There
Yeah.
has to be.
We stand in all of it, right?
Right. And it's, I don't know, and it's awestruck, just, it humbles you.
Mhm. You feel small. Yeah.
Feel super small. Or
Mhm.
like, an astronaut that is in
Mhm.
space, right? And they just look and they're like, I mean, I can't even,
And I think that's the hard thing, though. You also like I watch a lot of documentaries. Probably feel like such a nerd. I was just telling my boss about one I watched the other day. They were telling me about a show they watched, and they were like, "What do you watch?" And I was like, "I'm watching nature documentaries," and they're watching some drama show. But I watch them, and that's the sad part. A lot of people look at it and they don't see him because I feel like our education system just pushes evolution and this science-based explanation. It's like they're trying to explain away God, and that's what's hard to hear,
Yeah.
It's hard to see that the very thing that he uses to showcase his eternal power and his divine nature, his invisible qualities, we look through it to something we created, an idea, a thought. And yeah, I mean, it's just, that's what's hard. Because
Yeah.
I see him in creation, and I think that's where my passion is like, if I can get somebody to see that he's provide like, between the word and creation, like, he's provided everything we need to know him.
Come on.
So,
Would you say in that, because is there like a connection, would you say, of like, okay, we can see creation, but then like we're a creation
Mhm.
too. You see like there's like a connection within that, like
Mhm.
within humans and with like nature.
Yeah, I mean,
Amazing.
for sure, there's probably 1,000 different veins you could go down with that. I
Yeah.
did just read a book recently, through church, actually. The Garden Within is what it's called. Highly recommend it. It's about emotional health, but it's all about the correlation between, like, if you look at. So I mean, one thing I love about design is when you look at anything, like, there's evidence of a designer, and so you look at someone who creates a painting. Usually, if you look at multiple paintings in a row, they have a very similar. They have similar qualities to them, and that points you to a specific artist, right?
Yeah.
And so when I look at creation, I just see a common designer. And what's cool when you look at humans and you look at different things within their body, you see those things also in creation. I love that. Like, there's even these images like carrots, right? They're really good for your eyes, but if
Right.
you cut a carrot and then you look at it, it kind of looks like an eye. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things, like, what? Like, that's good for my eyes, and it kind of looks like an eye. And you see the brainstem, like, our brainstem alone looks like a seed, and then I mean, that's what the Garden Within goes into. And I butcher things if I don't have them right in front of me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
can
No, you're
reference
good.
them all day long to tell you to go look at it, but I'm not going to be able to quote it really well. Even right now, I've brought up Romans 1:20 how many times and butchered it every time.
It's okay.
So
I feel like the heart probably reflects something with
yeah,
trees
well,
and roots and like,
yeah, the hearts, the lungs, our nervous system. like all of it. I mean, you just look at our nervous system alone; it looks like a bunch of roots, and it's just insane the commonalities. And so you see a common designer and all the things.
Yeah. So you see God's like handprint or kind of God's signature down below. Oh wow, that's really neat. Where are you at today with like you kind of share a lot about your past and where you're at. Where are you at today with your walk with the Lord, what you're doing right now? Maybe some some other things like poetry, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I'm being still, honestly.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm one that likes to strive, and you don't see that in nature very often. Like things aren't really striving, like they're being. And I was actually just writing this morning even a little bit about that. I wonder if I guess I can pull it up, not to recall a thought, but yeah. So like for me right now, just even thinking about spring, this is kind of what he kind of dropped in me even this morning. I wrote this. He said, he brings out the growth not by force, but by time, by changing conditions surrounding the growth he put within us. Our situations, where we are planted, the soil, the air temps, the wind, the life we supported in the seasons before, all of it affects our growth, and growth still occurs. Without striving, it occurs. By just being, it occurs. By remaining through the hardness of winter, remaining through the washing of spring, remaining through the heat of summer, remaining through the letting go of fall, remaining, being, trusting, looking up and reaching out. These things are the things that lead to thriving. These things are the things that produce resilient growth. Spring is the season when you see the old that made it, and it's also the season when new things begin. And so just that's kind of where I'm at.
Holy cow.
You said that's where I'm at.
That's where you're at.
Just trying to see where I am.
I think sometimes a lot of people have a tough time just being just be still and know that I'm God. And I think that's where you're pulling that from. And it's allowing God to do his work, but you got to stop everything. You got to you got to trust the process, that term, trust the process. And I just think about, if you want to grow, you got to let those seasons take its course, or you're not going to produce what it's supposed to, what a plant or, fruit or whatever is supposed to produce. And that's a lot right there.
Patience is the biggest thing in nature. I mean, just the waiting. I mean, it takes time to produce. And I think we're in a culture that we don't want to wait, and we don't want to wait and see, and we want to feel like we earned everything. And I know I know that's my tendency to strive and to force things. But you look at, if you force growth, it's usually weaker, like that's what greenhouses do. And
Pause.
No.
When they force them grapes to be plumper and better, they don't taste good.
As good.
Oh.
They're terrible.
Yeah, that's gardening.
Sorry, that's it.
Look at any home gardener will tell you the tomato they grew is going to be 100 times better than the one that they bought. Which one did you have to wait for though? So waiting, right? Waiting is so much sweeter.
Oh,
that's big.
That is. I think she's here to minister to us.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. I think. And I think I think about these last few weeks. In spring, I'm like super anxious, super excited, and it's like, but it's just been downpouring, raining, and I think that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, it absolutely is,
because it's preparing to do. You would know more than I know why that
April showers
bring May flowers. And it's like we're trying to we trying to plant some produce.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, we haven't planted it yet, but we got the beds, we got some dirt in it, and
Soil, not
got-
dirt. There's a difference.
Yes, yeah. I mean, someone told me that the other day. Don't call it the D word. Call it soil.
Soil.
We want to respect that soil. I think that's a really. I mean, I can't get back to I just get back to the waiting.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we, I don't know, it's just like with anything. If you're not in that posture of just being still, then and you're just going on the next thing.
Well, and the seasons always come, right? Like we're watching things. So how do I? There's like a clock that's been set into motion too. Like he set things into motion. That's what it says in the beginning in Genesis, right?
Yeah.
He spoke it and he set it into motion. And yes, we go. I mean, every year we go through a season of spring. Every year we go through, and yet we always feel different in every spring. And so there are things that he set into motion, but the trusting looks different every time, And I think that like that's why every time you look at spring or you're entering into a new spring, like you don't feel the same way you did the last spring you were in.
You don't.
Right? But if you take time to observe it, right? Like if you take time to pay attention to what you're feeling, then you might be seeing new things grow that you didn't before, right? Like where am I going with this?
Keep going though. I think you're onto something.
So what I was bringing up was the timing of things. So there's something I was a little afraid to geek out here. Going down the science road here. So there's something called growing degree day units. And so it sounds like what it is. It's where things are growing at a specific degree. We have mathematically been able to figure out at what point you can anticipate, we can predict down to day, basically, not by time, but by paying attention to temperatures when something will bloom.
Okay.
And so you basically, the way that you would do this is you would take the average high for the day and the average low for the day, and then you get the number. This is where I feel like I always lose people because I'm like so interested in this, but I know it's like so detailed and like people are like, you lost me. But you take the average low for the day and the average high for the day, right? If that number is above 50, because our average temperature in Ohio in our area is 50 degrees, right? If that number is above 50, then however many it's above 50, that's how many, like one would, like if it's 51 degrees, we have one growing degree day unit. Okay.
Okay.
And so plants have a number. And they have a growing degree day unit associated with them in their bloom time.
Okay.
So you can predict when we hit this temperature at some point in the spring, we're going to see the silver maple bloom. And so that is mind-blowing to me that God built a clock based on temperatures within these plants to tell them when to bloom. This is when you bloom. This is how you bloom. And it's like, that is too precise that we were able to figure that out even with our brain.
Yeah.
But then also that is something that we can go by year after year after year. And so we can trust that, right? Like those are things that if you know that, you can say, I can anticipate this. Now, then you also know that nature has unpredictability. So there's predictability in nature, but there's unpredictability, just like life, right?
Right.
And I can gain from nature to say, okay, there is a being still and knowing that I'm going to bloom, but there's also storms that are going to hit me and I might not necessarily be hanging onto the branches I thought I was going to, and so like, how do you trust him and that's the remaining, right? Like I love trees for that reason, because they're anchored, they're rooted. They still do everything they're supposed to do in their season.
Yeah.
But they also take the hits of the seasons, they still let go in a different way every year. Not the same leaves don't fall every year, and so it's just, how do you just remain? Like he says, just remain in me. Like that is all we are called to do, is remain and trust. And so to answer the full-blown question of like how I'm doing, it's just like, I don't know, I'm just trying to remain in him, and I don't know what that looks like, and I don't know what that trust feels like all the time, because I'm not quite the most used to it. But when I look at creation, I see that it works. It makes it a little bit easier, I guess. Oh Lord.
That's a lot. That's a lot to
Yeah,
unpack.
sorry.
That's no.
Big
I think it's
so good.
I think
You hit on it.
you're hitting where we should be going, and it's just ultimately that pure trust. I think we got a new tree that's planted in our house, in front of our house. There
It's
used
its
to be,
wig, Joel. It's its wig. It ain't even
But-
tree. It's its wig.
It's-
homie.
but I do
I
remember.
got some stories on you though.
I do remember that. Like it's kind of like this. You don't even think second. You don't even like. I don't think like, oh man, like. I don't second guess that leaves will come back
Mhm.
and things will bloom,
Mhm.
but they do.
Yeah.
And then when you notice it, you're like, wow,
Mhm.
that's powerful. Like that's somebody's behind that.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's kind of like this trust almost of these quote seasons like that. That summer will come, and the leaves will bloom, and then fall will come and they will fall, and then it'll do the whole thing again. And so it's like that right there says, okay, like he is the author.
Mhm.
He's over all that, and it's like a really, I don't know. It's just like, but you don't think about it a lot of times, like.
Mm-mm.
But of course, that's where the element of faith comes in, and like, but I don't know where I'm going with all that.
It's okay. We're in this Lenten season,
Mhm.
right? And I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, like I don't know who came up with like the resurrection day.
Lent
either-
actually, we referred that to as Lent actually means spring.
Okay, perfect. Love that. But then you think about like Resurrection Sunday, like this is a resurrecting time. Like dead things are coming alive. Like
Mhm.
that's crazy. Like church calendar lines up with this time of year, and
Yeah.
like this is just that time of year where dead
I-
things are
I-
coming
I
alive.
struggle with the dead things. One of the things you even mentioned in even the outline that you sent me was like I actually looked it up because it was the grain of wheat, and I forget where that was at. Is it John? Where grain of wheat falls and dies, but then it produces more. And I got
yeah.
hung up on the dies part
Hmm.
because, like, it's scripture, so I was really looking into it, but and you brought up the resurrection. Like we look at winter and we're like, okay, now spring is a springing to life, right? So it's the resurrection of death, but
So was it sleep? Would you rather?
is more dormant. Like that's
Mm.
what winter is a dormant season, and what dormant means is to rest. Like that's what that is, and so it's that's why I brought up at the beginning, like it's a waking up. Spring is a waking up, and it's a coming alive in a different way, not because it was necessarily dead,
True.
but because it's been rejuvenated. It's like a rejuvenation, and that's how I see spring is more like a rejuvenation of life. And what rejuvenation means is to make young again, and so it's just new life, new birth.
New.
It's new,
Mhm.
and so we get a new season every year, a season of newness every year. And I think that's why I like spring so much is like, it's just that, and I mean, new creations, you just go on and on and on of all the new, because a tree is holding leaves, but they aren't the same leaves as last year because those fell, right?
Mhm.
Those got let go.
Yeah.
So I guess those died, but they weren't really the life of that plant.
No, right.
So
That makes that makes a lot of sense because you think about like the second something starts to die is when we cut it.
yeah, when it gets removed.
When it gets removed or cut or
Yeah, and I guess technically like the life is no longer in that thing, right?
because it's not with the
But
source.
that's the point, right? Is we let go of those things that we want to fall away so that they don't rot out the good, right? We're letting go of those things that should be let go of because they aren't producing anymore. They aren't giving life anymore. They are no
Back in John
longer
15.
contributing. Like that's why you prune things away, and that's why leaves fall. Is they're not doing anything anymore, and so their unproductive parts are what usually fall away.
Let me ask you about the term pruning.
Mhm.
Can you tell me, that's pulled from the Bible, why that's important, what that means, and what outside of the Bible, what is pruning actually doing for like a tree?
Oh, goodness. You're going to get me on this train.
Oh yeah.
I love pruning. It's my favorite thing to do. So many things. Like you prune. So there's some. I never know what to speak because I like want to just say the facts of what you do when you prune, like as like a job. But then you also look at that spiritual side of things of like, okay, what does this actually mean? How do you apply it? But that's kind of what I do. I guess I just explain what you do in the work. And then it just automatically, kind of like God does with his parables, you know, and just the sower and the seed. People understood sowing. This is the act of sowing. And so relating that back to life, it just kind of automatically happens. But, so yeah, there's reason. I just wrote about this. I wonder if I can just pull that up because that's okay.
No, FYI, Emily is someone that is, you're pretty active in writing and you're putting more things out to share.
Yeah.
Doing some of that.
I'm trying to.
Some sweet
I
poetry.
I have not been the most
It's okay. We're
with
grateful.
it, I guess. But I did just write in the winter. So I'm observing. It's kind of, I was telling Kai this, it's kind of interesting that you asked me to come and talk about spring because I'm observing the seasons this year, like in writing about them. I just did winter, and actually winter is the best time to prune. Second best is spring, but winter is actually the best.
Why?
Why is winter?
Yeah.
Because the plant is dormant. And so
it's resting.
It's resting. The plant, for lack of a better way of explaining it, the plant doesn't feel the cuts as much when it's not awake. And so it's easier to remove things in winter for the plant. And so
for the life of the plant.
Whoa. You're saying wintertime is the best time to prune?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. That's a
why? Then why do we were talking about the winter blues.
It's all about winter blues.
Like,
here, let me go there because I did listen to your winter blues podcast.
Lord.
And I didn't want to read all this, but I can if you want, if you're okay with it.
Whatever you want.
Okay. Here we go. So I'll go into winter. It does lead into spring. All right. So winter. Dormancy is the state of winter. It is when energy is conserved, roots grow stronger, and plants protect themselves against the harsh environment that surrounds them. Just as most plants cannot survive without a season of dormancy, neither can we. The word dormancy comes from the Latin word dormire, meaning to sleep. Dormancy is rest. We all need rest, and not just some, a whole season of it. You can recognize you're in a winter season if your energy feels low. Things feel dry, your days don't feel as bright, things are quieter, nothing feels productive, and little changes in the landscape of your life from day to day. Winter isn't a season where you watch things grow. It is a season where you tend to the things that already have, and you plan for the things that you want to see grow in the future. Tending to what you have in the winter has more to do with the current health and future growth than it does with anything in the past. Yes, the past may have contributed to the lack of current health, but there isn't anything you can do to change it. You can, however, take action to prevent it from continuing into the next season. In a garden, winter is the best time to prune plants. Due to the effects of fall, it is easier to see the inside of the plant to make the proper cuts with a clearer view. You can see the full habit, conditions, and shape of the plant. Therefore, removing the parts that shouldn't be there is easier. In the winter, the plant isn't actively growing, and so the cuts don't stress the plant out as much as they would in the growing season. Pruning takes time and methodical thought. The purpose of it is to remove the unhealthy parts and to shape and promote growth. We prune the things away that are dead or no longer productive. We prune because things need to be thinned out for light to penetrate deeper than it did on the surface. We prune to promote air to flow more freely through the plant. And we prune to stop growth from growing where it shouldn't. Most often, people prune for aesthetics. Aesthetics first and then health. But if you start with aesthetics, when it comes time to remove the unhealthy, you risk taking too much out, and the growth is actually stunted rather than promoted. You don't start pruning just to look good. You start pruning to maintain the health. The gardener knows this, and he takes careful consideration before he removes things from our lives, and therefore so should we. Winter may not be the time for much production, but it is a time when provision can be seen pretty clearly if you train yourself to look for it. In winter, we don't see the hustle and bustle of nature. Oh, you do, however, but do you ever wonder where all the wildlife goes? Sure, some birds migrate, but not all of them. It's amazing to see how God provides the shelter, the food, and the warm coats for every living thing in order to ride out the winter. He does the same for us. We just don't often notice it because we don't trust that we can have a full season without production. And we let that drive us out into the environment God intended to shelter us from. If you try to be overly productive in winter, disappointment often lies on the other side of it. We need dormancy to survive. Rest is imperative, not for our survival, but also for our health and our growth and our production. And finally, winter is the best time to plan. Nothing is urgent in the winter. It is time to slow down and think, to reflect on what you want to grow. Unfortunately, this is hard to do if you haven't experienced the other seasons fully to show you what to plan for. Taking a year to observe how your garden responds to seasons is one of the best ways to gain insight on how you will plan for it in the future. Most of us just don't have the patience for that, though, do we? I could speak on planning for quite some time because there are so many factors to consider when you do it. But that is why winter is the best time for it, because you have time to consider it all. Winter is the season with the least amount of maintenance, but it is without a doubt the most important maintenance you can do. If you steward your winter well, the spring becomes that much more exciting.
Whoosh.
So yeah, winter's the best time to prune.
Thanks, James. I feel
Blown away.
just kind of blown away. Yeah,
Blown away.
I don't know how. There's a lot to think and to do. I mean, the idea of pruning. Yeah, you nailed
You
it.
extracted that really
And
well.
I think I wanted to address that because that's an important piece of the proper growth and how we can spring up and move forward. And I think,
Can I talk about a different aspect?
Yeah.
The roots.
Yeah.
I feel or sense that is something that's really hard for humanity right now, is like just having deep roots with things.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
like how
That's a good point.
how would you describe just like how obviously the roots are the backbone of the plant, but like if you want to just expound on just roots.
So roots, a lot of people don't realize roots actually expand twice, sometimes 3 or 4 times wider than the canopy of a tree. So you're standing on, I guarantee it. I mean, everything's kind of built on. And so they take up a ton of nutrients, right? Like they're what keep you healthy. They're what feed the plant. And so that's that remaining, right? And that's where you want the good soil, you know. Roots in general, when you're planting, I could get into this. You want to make sure we're in a culture people get by a pot, right? The potted plant.
Yeah.
This isn't a natural way for plants to grow. The roots are growing in a circle, right? And so when you plant them, you're actually not doing, with the exception of probably annuals and your vegetables. This is like talking about the woody plants, like the plants that you would prune. You want those roots to be spread out, right? Like that's how they actually grow, is they're growing out. They're growing out and down. But in a pot, they're growing around. And so you got to break that up before you plant it, right? In order to get those roots a little bit more open to grow in the right direction. And if you really know what you're doing, you might even just remove all the soil altogether from the pot and really break up all those roots. And I think people are just scared of this. They think that they're going to like really, they know that that's the life of the plant and they think they're going to hurt it. But roots can actually handle a lot in order to be planted correctly.
You know what? Shout out to my mom. My mom, my mom always.
What, Joel?
Shout out to my.
She knows
to
it.
Linda. No, like I remember growing up, like we would do the spring planting, that kind of thing, spring cleaning, do mulching.
Mm-hmm.
That was the big thing. She still invites me, hey, you want to come mulch it, take a weekend or whatever. I'm like, okay, Mom, gotcha. There. But I just remember like, when you plant, you got to break up
the roots.
You buy all these plants at the store or whatever, and you bring them home, and
Mm-hmm.
she's like, you got to break them up or whatever. And I just can't help, but I bought some little trees at Costco, and I planted those puppies, and I watered those puppies.
Faithful.
And I was like, man, it's going to take root, but I don't think I broke them up enough. I mean, I forget what kind of, they're like these little mini Christmas tree kind of thing.
Arborvitae, the ones out here, right?
Yeah.
They're gone.
They died. But
They're gone.
I didn't break it up, but I think I didn't think of it. I didn't break it up enough that it could, quote, start the roots.
Reach out, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's.
Yeah. They got to reach out, right? They got to push out. They're not meant to grow in a circle. If you don't, and that's just kind of what it is. Like they are going to continue in the habit that they started, right?
Oh, wow.
And so if you're not, that's what roots are meant to do, anchor, right? Like that is what they are. They're also there to feed, but that plant doesn't stand without them, metaphorically, physically, and all the ways, and literally, that plant will not stand without them. And so it is important. It's the first thing that comes out of a seed, it's the radical root. That is what comes out of a seed. And it grows down first. And I think we're all afraid of putting in the work that nobody sees. We're all afraid we want to see the canopy before we see the roots. And the roots are the most important thing, because if you don't have it, it's not going to sustain the plant. And that's where forcing, like in the greenhouse where I talked about, you're going to be weak. They aren't given time to push out enough roots to hold the structure of the plant that they grew above the soil. And that's usually why they flop. They bring a plant home too early, you're going to see it flop over because they just didn't get the strength they need.
You got another thought?
Well, I was going to have her hit on soil.
Don't call it dirt. Soil.
Well, different types of soil, like our heart. Like I just wanted to hear her speak about like different types of soil.
Yeah, that's a deep one too. So that Garden Within book goes into this too. Actually,
is it really?
Really a lot. Yeah, it talks about the soil and having a good place to plant, and that is what good soil is, right? So
maybe just super high level. Your thoughts on soil?
Soil, yeah.
Oh, it's the basis. I mean, it holds all the nutrients that you need. I don't know. I don't know where to go quickly.
Because
you got to break it up. Yeah, you got to break it up. It takes time. Like any of it takes time. And so I would say the best way to create good soil. Okay. The best way to create good soil, again, it's patience, because it is like, think about if you were to go start digging in the woods, right? You're going to find really good organic matter there, right? Like that's what good soil is. It's an organic matter. The way you get that is by letting things die. That's what organic matter is. It's the decomposition of things that once lived.
Is that why people compost?
It is exactly why people compost.
I just learned about this.
So,
like recently,
my mom composted.
Your mom.
So welcome,
I just wondered.
Welcome to the compost.
Yeah,
black folks don't
breaking
compost.
Down old
we
stuff.
can literally.
I've never seen that in our culture. Like
stuff and
I've
turn it into
seen
dirt.
That's weird to me.
Soil.
That's weird. I just didn't,
oversimplify it for effect. But yeah,
that's what that is.
That's what composting is. It's it's making organic matter. Like the top layer of soil is organic matter, and that's why it's so rich, because it literally holds all of the things that once lived there before. And so, yeah, it's a letting go. It's the dying, I guess. It's the dying you were talking about. Like new life does come from that. New life absolutely comes from that. New life does need that. It needs the things that have once lived before. I think that's the legacy. Soil is the legacy.
Soil is the legacy.
Oh boy.
Oh my.
That other things grow in. Yeah.
With seeing all this, like
With all of that.
with all that, no, this is really good. I
Joel's
think
favorite
there's so
parts.
many things, if I'm just listening to each one of these pieces to the process of creation and growth and what it means to be rooted, pruning. I think there's so many elements, so many layers to it all, and
Literally layers.
So
literally.
layers, yeah.
And it's. I think it's just a beautiful. And you step back and you look in and say, "That's our God. That's a creator. That's our creator God." I think there's a reason why in the beginning God created.
Yeah.
It's like that means something to God.
Yeah.
Entirely, and then He creates all these things, and He creates man and woman in His image, and that is a lot there too, of course. Kind of shifted a little bit, but for us as people, and we're trying to grow or do things. We're trying to be, quote, a gardener to ourselves. And Kai too, like if we think about how do we grow, how do we spring up in our faith or spring up in our lives, what matters to us? What makes us really grow? And I think you kind of hit like that, be still. But when what you've learned, Emily, and then thinking about faith and how does that, where do you see, how we partner in that idea?
Yeah, because there's a stewarding, right? Like once you see growth, how do you steward that well? And remaining is part of it. But I think that's where we're different. That's where the separation from plants comes. It's like I can take the analogy from only so far.
Right.
At the end of the day, we are created beings that God wants to interact with and partner with. Like this, He isn't just growing us and we're just sitting there letting Him. We're active partners in this relationship, and I think that's where like the Holy Spirit leads us in what we need to do. And you listen and take action. And I think that depending on what you want to grow in is going to, I mean, I can take it back to plants in the sense that like you don't plant certain things in certain places. There's wisdom in where you plant and what you plant. And so that's where you partner with Him. He knows what and where, and He knows all the what's and the where's and the, and the hows, and He ultimately knows the why. And I think that is where that partnership where you just listen to Him, the stewarding of the growth is with Him. Like you can't move. You're not going to produce, I guess this is what I would say. You're not going to produce well if you aren't tapped into the source or the thing that produces,
Yeah.
And that's the He's the nutrients. He's the one that changes all that dead soil into what life holds. He's the one that brings the nutrients up and feeds the plant to produce what it's meant to produce. And
I know we didn't even talk about photosynthesis or nothing like that.
So I think that like, yeah, it's facing the sun. I mean, plants even tell you like just face the sun.
I haven't said that since
grow.
like this. I literally haven't said that since like I haven't said that since seventh grade, y'all.
Like I had to get it in there.
I just had to get it in there. Like I know
Good.
it clicked. I couldn't.
Good job, Kai.
I
Good
love
job.
it, bro. I love it. But that's the thing is like keep your eyes on Him. Keep your ears on Him. Like He gave us everything we need in order to grow. The tending of that. I mean, we have things that we do. We read the Word. We listen. We worship. We do these things, and those are the things that He uses. And I think we want to make it overly complex, and it just isn't. And things are going to grow. Like you plant something, you throw a seed. Like sowing is casting things out. Like your seeds are, think about a tree. It's holding all of its fruit loosely out on its limbs. All it takes is wind to take it somewhere. So, but we sit here and we're like, okay, I need to figure out a strategic way to plant this thing. That's not what sowing is. Sowing's not being intentional about the planting of a seed. And I think we hold that too closely to our chest that people miss it because we're too afraid to actually sow it and throw it out there and see what happens. And I think that's where we try to do too. We overcomplicate it. We overcomplicate it. And all it looks like is just being who you were created to be. Just be who you were created to be. Trust in the one that created you and watch what happens.
Come on. I can't help but to think like it's that natural, like, okay, yeah, I think we make it so complicated. Like for Kai and I, like we got these raised beds, like let's just plant some seeds and see what happens, and like we do our best. But I think it's tying into like we can do the natural, but then like if we just have to believe like God will do that supernatural and grow something in us. And I think that's where like, we can water, we can plant, we can do what we can get things ready, but then who's going to grow it? It's got to be the Lord. It's like, can't be us at the end of the day. And like when you try to manufacture it, I can't say that right.
Manufacture, baby.
It ain't going to taste right.
Yeah.
It's going to be fake. It's not going to be genuine. But then it's, again, trusting that process, slowing down, knowing who has it all. And the timing, too, I think is huge.
Yeah.
Wow, that's there's so many, that's really well.
I'm mind blown.
Well said, Emily.
I'm glad.
I know it doesn't take much in this category.
Made sense.
Yeah, and but I think
you call the maple tree slim thicks.
I just want to encourage people that are listening. It's like we are part of this process of growth, and whatever as you were sharing all those different elements of the growth process or the dying process. Like we are part of that, and we can bear fruit or we can die. Therefore, as anybody's in Christ, they're a new creation. The old is come, the old is gone, and the new is come. That's from 2 Corinthians 5:17. And I've always kind of grew up with that verse from my dad's church. And we had a picture of a butterfly.
Yep, that's the common one.
It's like this, the Hungry Caterpillar book, if you've read that. But I just love that picture. And like, there's so much going on for that caterpillar. But what it produces is like, what?
You're like, that came from that? What?
It's, I think that's what Jesus does to us at the end of the day. Like, he wants us to go away with our sins and come back to life. That's kind of like this imagery of baptism. You go into the waters, you die with all that stuff, and then you're reborn.
Yeah.
And I think you did such a great job of tying it all in. So, Kai, I think this is kind of a good way to land it.
What I kind of took away from it is like doing the things like reading your Bible and praying like that keeps your soil of your heart super nutrient and soft and willing to take seed. When the Lord does speak, you move. When he does say, go here, you go. You have an obedient heart. Secondfold, I think that I kind of take from what you were just sharing is just like when we don't remain, we become dead because we're not close to the source. We're not our source is somewhere else and not him. So we're instantly dying just when you transplant something or you take something, you get uprooted. And I think that we see that in our world where it's dark is because people aren't connected to the source. Point blank simple, you're dying. So you're looking for all the other things to fill these parts of you that are dying because you're not connected to your source. And so what do you expect to happen? Sin just is rampant, like, of course, right? And so those are the kind of things I was thinking about as you were sharing. And I just thank you so much for coming on and sharing.
Thank you.
That was a really long break.
I felt it.
I think tying that too is like, I think maybe you probably could speak into it too. There's an element of, the relationships piece, others, and like,
I forgot about mentioning that with Ruth.
Body of Christ, and there's probably so much that
I could talk for like 4
more into why that.
But it should just have to be back on.
I think so. I think
people are gonna love it.
I think
It'll be a part 2 sometime.
I think we should do a part 2 because I think there's so much to
unfold.
But thanks, Emily.
Yeah, it never ends.
But yeah, spring up, people.
Wake up, people.
Wake up. Yeah. Look outside.
Yeah.
Just look outside. See what God is literally showing you right in your face, And I think he wants to show off to you. He wants to show off in his love through his son. And he wants to show off, just say, hey,
I'm here.
Provision.
I got new life for you. And thank you so much, Emily. That's
absolutely.
Awesome.
My pleasure.
That's another episode.
It's another episode. We'll see you guys the next time.
I love you guys.
Peace.